I know, it looks like we're working on an Audi today, but no, it's a Mini Cooper, and when we're done, the bill is definitely not going to be mini. Let's get started. So this is a 2013 Mini Cooper base. It's not an S, it's not a John Cooper Works, it's nothing special. It's just a base model, naturally aspirated Mini Cooper. Customer dropped it off with just an oil leak, concerned about seeing drips in the driveway. But when we got done and figured out where all the leaks are coming from, it's crazy. And when I show you what the problems were, what were causing the leaks, the amount of teardown was involved is really dumb. So with an oil leak, those of you who own Mini Coopers of this year's, what do you think it could be? Let's play the game. You can let us know in the comments what you think it is. Is it A, a valve cover gasket, B, a rear main seal, or C, something to do with the oil filter? Let you guys comment, see what you think it is. So let's find out, is it A, the valve cover gasket? Let's take a look around the top portion of the engine. You can see it's a plastic valve cover on an aluminum cylinder head, and we can see all the way around, even around the back and over by the timing chain area. It's dry as a bone. There's not a single drop. But when this thing was in here, when we first brought it in, it literally was pouring oil out. So no, it is not A, the valve cover gasket. Let's get this thing up in the air and see, is it possibly a rear main seal? So one thing we checked when Christopher got this up in the air, who's Junior Mint by the way, there's a little hole here actually for access between the engine and transmission. And if there was a rear main seal leak, it would literally be pouring out of here, but it's dry. It's just sandy, dry dirt in there. There's nothing. But we did see that the oil was flowing like a small waterfall all down here onto the exhaust, all over the oil pan from midway up the engine, not from the rear main seal and not from the valve cover gasket. So unlike the cop car that's behind us that we just did a video on where just the oil filter was the issue, this is actually similar. It's related to the oil filter, but it's actually housing to the oil filter, not the oil filter itself, just this little gasket. And just this $3 little gasket caused half of the huge teardown we see here. Let's lower it back down and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So as I show you what we discovered here, remember, this is a BMW car. I really hate BMWs. But it seems like a simple job. When I found out it was a oil filter adapter, I was like, all right, it's just a gasket. Go ahead and Junior Mint and have at it. He got his service manual, which is good. I'm glad he's following the instructions. And he went through it. It said, step 1, remove the entire catalytic converter and exhaust manifold assembly, which requires service position. I was like, what? No way. I said, just get the bolts backed out on the oil filter adapter. I bet we can sneak it out of there. Let me show you where the bolts are. So we have a bolt here, here, and here, which looks easy enough, but with this installed, it's sitting right about right here. And you can get the bolts loose and they get about 2 turns out of it, and then they hit the back of this. I said, okay, undo the exhaust manifold bolts. I bet we can just kind of teeter this thing out of the way and the bolt will come out the rest of the way. So we tried that. Did not work. It just won't come out. I said, all right, remove the catalytic converter, whatever. It's what it takes, it's what it takes. I guess the service manual was right. Imagine that. So he got it all disconnected, and it physically, he couldn't get it past these studs. I'll show you here. It would come back to about here and hit the fans. You couldn't even physically even get it out. Knowing that this is a BMW product, I knew maybe just gently flexing the fans or something, just enough to get it past. I said, no, it's a BMW. If you even push on any plastic part just a little bit, it's going to shatter into pieces. I said, don't do that. I said, put it into service position. So in order to do that, he had to get all of this apart. They undid these bolts here so he could move this entire assembly forward enough, which we didn't want to do with the bumper still on and stretch or crack the plastic. And he was able to move this entire radiator core support thing forward just enough to sneak out the catalytic converter assembly. Then we were able to get the bolts out and get this oil filter adapter out. And it's interesting, I want to show you something on here. Right in this area, there's actually could be an oil cooler. There's coolant behind here. It's just blocked off. Probably because it's not a turbo model, it's not needed, but we took this off and coolant came out. We're like, oh, okay, so they just blocked off where there should have been an oil cooler. But anyways, now we can get to the bolts, and that's actually been replaced already. So we got that solved. I said, okay, we're go ahead and put this stuff back together, but before we do it, pressure test the cooling system since we just had it open. Let's make sure there's no leaks or no issues going on. He did it, and coolant started running down the back. It's had 2 leaks from the get-go, but it was just only noticed there was leaks. The customer didn't understand which leaks or where. It actually also had a coolant leak all this time. And it was nothing to do with the work we've done here. It was actually the thermostat was leaking. And just like Grandpa's Chevy 350, where it's just a little metal disc and you put it on and you're done, not on these. It's a BMW. This is the thermostat. It looks like an artificial heart, Mrs. Wizard.
Yeah, that thing is crazy looking. I've never seen a thermostat look like that before.
It's like you could open up someone's chest and put that in there and it would pump blood for them.
It would do something. I don't think it would keep you alive.
But anyways, this seam that goes all the way around here, which is very common, which is, you can see coolant, which is spurting out here under pressure. And I kind of did a face palm. I was like, of course it is. It's a BMW. Of course it's doing that. So I said, Junior Man, go ahead and pull that off. Let's replace it. But he did tell me, he said, okay, I'll do that, but before I take it off, I want you to know I also saw a coolant leak coming from behind the intake way over on this side of the engine. He said, I haven't discovered that yet. I said, go ahead and pull this off. We'll take a look. So we got the thermostat off, and there is a coolant pipe that connects to it here that goes behind the intake to the water pump, actually. And when he removed this, it literally just fell. How in the world was it even sealing? You can see there, where there should be a flange here, it's just cracked and eaten away, like corroded. It was just the O-ring sitting inside of the inner diameter of the whole back of the water pump, was just barely sealing. So it's a whole collection, it's kind of stacked problems. It's this, and this, and this, and this, just adds up. So people ask me, why do you hate BMWs, Wizard? This is why. Everything has got achy, breaky plastic. And you touch this and touch that, then it's like a domino effect and on down the line. And they don't last. It's this very cheap, I mean, bottom of the barrel plastic, even when they were new. And they don't last 100,000 miles and they do this. Now keep in mind, before we took this apart, this was already leaking. He noticed some leak going on over here, which is seeping a little bit. Now we know why. It wasn't because Christopher took it off and it caused it to do that. That wasn't what it was. We verified and saw a little bit of dribble coming out of the water pump area before he even took this off. So let's raise up the car again and take a look. Where does this go? So it actually goes underneath the intake right to the back of the water pump, which is a metal housing right here. And that was an area where we saw some coolant dripping as well. And add up all these leaks, there's quite a few that was going on here. It wasn't just an oil leak. Before we wrap that up, let's do a quick inspection while we're underneath here. First thing I notice is it's hit a parking lot stall, one of those little concrete, I don't know what you call them. Let me know in the comments, guys. I can't even think of it right now. But they hit something there, which luckily is not leaking. Let's check out the brakes. They are like brand new brakes. Nothing's loose there. CV boots are good. Brakes are good. CV boots are good. Struts aren't leaking, nothing loose. Obviously we have tons of liquid here because we're currently working on it and there was leaks, so we already know about all of that. Here's our dinky little exhaust. It's a long skinny one, Mrs. Wizard.
It looks like a long skinny noodle.
It kind of does. Brakes back here are like new. Struts are dry. Everything's good there, nothing loose. Here's our spare, kind of off center, off to the side. And yes, it has air in it. Brakes are good. Strut is dry. Sway bar link is good there. Well, let's get this thing on the ground. I don't see anything else going on other than the issues we just found. So I got this back on the ground, and no, that's not my Viper in the background. I don't have a Viper anymore. I sold it a while back. That's a good customer we've had coming back several times. They have new issues arise, which has happened on there, and they say, hey, can you solve this? Yes, so it's here for some work. So this causes another scenario on this Mini Cooper that I don't like also with BMWs, is that it's really hard to give an accurate estimate. Just like in this picture here, we've all seen the meme of the cat at the dinner table and a lady shouting, "You told me it was only going to be an oil leak." That's happened so much with BMW vehicles, and it almost never is just one thing. You find, oh, well, this and then that. Oh, this plastic is cracked. This is having an issue. They're just not maintained as well as they should be. I actually talked to my buddy Mirko in Germany, and I told him about my frustrations with BMWs here in America. He said it's because Americans don't maintain their German cars. He said over here we're constantly, every year, do this. We don't worry about the cost because we know it's required to keep the thing on the road and keep it happy. Here in America we say, I don't want to spend all that money. It's running fine. I don't need to. It starts up, it runs. Why do I need to take it to the shop? It's making this weird clunking noise. I'll just turn the radio up and it'll blare and I won't hear that anymore. Then it finally gets to the shop and it's a cascade of things that you find. It's missed maintenance, missed service. It finally catches up. It's easy to think that if they would have serviced the cooling system and flushed the coolant and everything, maybe the plastic would have lasted, but the plastic they use is this achy, breaky, cheap plastic. I don't think it matters. It just degrades. It doesn't last. It's barely glued together. You see all the flanges that were glued together. It's split. After 100,000 miles, a Mini Cooper or a BMW, and sometimes Mercedes-Benz, especially the newer ones, they will just nickel and dime you to death until the end of time. They don't ever stop doing that. And I just did a video not too long ago, you guys just saw on a Malibu that we filmed how newer cars are getting more plasticky and more, actually, less reliable. They're just not designed to last 300,000 and 400,000 and 500,000 in miles anymore. They're 100,000 and after that, it's your problem and I don't even care. Go buy a new car. So we got the oil leak situation solved. We get a new thermostat, a new pipe, put all this stuff back together, and we'll have a leak-free vehicle. It'll be running and driving. Is it going to be a couple $100? No. It's easily going to be over $1,000 or more, unfortunately. But what do? You have to fix these things. We showed you the coolant pipe is literally about to just fall out. It was only being held in by the O-ring and the fact that the thermostat was there. It's a good thing we caught these things now, though, instead of during a breakdown. We can get them solved and keep a catastrophic engine failure from happening, like total loss of coolant or running out of oil. Those are very terrible things that engines don't like. They tend to die when that happens. So if you're curious what kind of tools we're going to use to work on this, or we have used, or any other car in the shop, check our Amazon affiliates link in the description below. A lot of the tools we use in the shop are listed for sale there, and if you purchase any of them, we get a small cut and we really appreciate it. Make sure to hit the subscribe button here because the crazy stories keep coming, all the crazy cars keep coming in, which means more great videos for you guys. Thanks for watching.